In this video, I will be going over what I believe is the top 5 best ARs and SMGs in the game. Now, of course, these are only going to be ARs and SMGs, but I will be going over the weapons and the setups in this video. I tried to put them in the best order that I thought. You might not agree with all the guns that I have picked, but again, this is what I think is the best 5. Timestamps will be down in the description, but let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So, this first weapon is arguably the #1 best weapon in Modern Warfare at the moment. And that's going to be the M4A1. This weapon is an absolute beast. It's basically unstoppable. If you're running this, then you're owning the battlefield. For my first attachment with this, I run the stock M16 Grenadier barrel, which is going to up your damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control. You're going to lose a little bit of that aim down sight speed and movement speed, but your aim down sight speed is not affected too much, and mobility honestly is not as important in this game as it is in other games. Next, I run the mini reflex sight. This is of course going to be up to you, just depending on how you like your sights. I find that the mini reflex sight works best for me, and which you'll see is on most of my other weapons, just because it's so small and takes up really no space whatsoever, and it has great visibility. Next, for my underbarrel, I run the commando foregrip. This is going to help with the range, the accuracy, and the control of your weapon. Again, you're going to lose a little bit of mobility, but you'll see that it honestly doesn't make too much of a difference. Next, for my rear grip, I run the stippled grip tape. This is going to help with the aim down sight speed and the sprint to fire speed, which actually brings up that mobility a little bit. You're going to lose a little bit control of the weapon, but this gun is so overpowered, you're not going to notice. Last but not least, I run the sleight of hands just because I like reloading much faster. If you don't want to run sleight of hand, sometimes I'll run the monolithic suppressor just because this will up your damage range, and of course you're going to be a little bit more quiet. You're going to lose a little bit more of that aim down sight speed though, which is very important in this game, but you'll have to see what works best for you. Sometimes I'll even run the forged tack stock because it will give you more of that aim down sight speed. Number 2 on my list is going to be an SMG, and that's going to be the MP5. Once again, this will cross map people. Every single one of these weapons I am showing you is so extremely overpowered, they honestly need to nerf like everything. For my barrel for the MP5, I run the FFS light barrel, and this is going to help your aim down sight speed. You're going to lose a little bit of that bullet velocity, but SMG's strong suit is getting that weapon up faster and being able to move around a little bit better, and this is what's going to help with that. Next, for my stock, I run the FTAC collapsible stock. Again, this is going to help so much with that mobility. It's going to increase your movement speed and your aim down sight speed more than you can imagine. You're going to lose a little bit of accuracy, range, and control with this weapon, but again, you're gaining so much, I would not even worry about those cons. Next, for my underbarrel, I would recommend the commando foregrip. This is going to help with the accuracy and the control, which we kind of just took away with that stock. You're going to lose a little bit mobility, but not much whatsoever. Next is a very important attachment in my opinion, and that's the 10mm auto 30 round mags. This is going to increase your damage, increase your range. You're going to lose a little bit of your fire rate and your control, but with how much range and damage you're gaining, it's honestly very much worth it to put this 10mm rounds on. Last but not least, again, I run the sleight of hands just like for the M4. It just helps that much for myself. I move around really fast, and I would probably die a lot more if I did not run this. A lot of people don't run the sleight of hands. They'll put on any of the reflex sights. That's going to be up to you. Again, it's whatever works best for you. But if you truly do not want to run sleight of hand, my main recommendation would be the stippled grip tape, because again, you're going to gain that aim down sight speed, that sprint to fire speed. This is so extremely important, but with how much I need to reload, I just run that instead. Now for my third gun I have on this list, the MP7. I would say that this is right up there with the MP5. I couldn't really decide whether I wanted to put the MP7 on as the second, just because they are so close. They are both absolutely amazing. Before this gun, I run the monolithic suppressor as my muzzle, just because gaining that damage range is important for me, because I'm really good at challenging further fights, and most of the time fights that I should not take, and that damage range helps me a lot with getting those kills. You're going to lose a little bit of that aim down sight speed and your aim walking steadiness, but it's very little and you probably won't notice it too much. Next, for my barrel, I run the FSS recon sight. This is again going to help with that damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control, increasing that accuracy and range, and of course your control. Again, you're going to lose a little bit of that aim down sight speed, the movement speed, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Next, I run the Commando foregrip for my underbarrel. This is going to help with your recoil and your aiming stability. Again, that movement speed is affected, but I'm going to show you an attachment in just a few seconds that helps with that a lot. Next, I run the 50 round mags. This is going to be entirely up to you. A lot of the times I don't run this, and I'll actually put on the close quarter stock or even sometimes a reflex sight. But that 50 round mag I find is important for myself, because a lot of times I end up running into 2 or 3 people at a time, and that extra 20 bullets helps me a lot. Last but not least, for my rear grip, I run the stippled grip tape. This is going to help with a lot that we just took away with those other attachments. That aim down sight speed, the sprint to fire speed. You're going to lose a little bit of control, but again, it's not too much that you should be worried. Again, this is a godly class setup. I would highly recommend trying these weapons out. It will improve your gameplay so much if you are not using one of these 5 weapons. Of course, there's a couple other weapons that are right here on the list that I did not add. Maybe I'll do a part 2, but right now let's go ahead and move on to number 4. Number 4 is probably one of my personal favorites, just because it's such a classic assault rifle, and that's going to be the AK-47. I have had so much fun using the AK-47. After I get Damascus, I'm sure that I'll be returning back to this gun. It's such a fun gun to use. You're going to have quite a bit of recoil with this gun, but what we're adding onto as attachments is going to help with that dramatically. First, I run the 23-inch RPK barrel, which is going to help with that recoil, like I was just mentioning, the bullet velocity, and the damage range. You're going to lose a little bit of that aim down sight speed, your movement speed, but again, that mobility really isn't needed in Modern Warfare just because of how slow paced it is. That aim down sight speed we'll get to later. Next, again, we're moving on to the reflex sights. This is going to be entirely up to you. I'm not even going to show you guys this anymore. Next, I'm run the skeleton stock, which helps a lot. When I say a lot, it helps so much. If you're running just one attachment, run the skeleton stock. That's just how good it is. It's going to increase your mobility from here to here. It's going to increase your aim walking movement speed, your movement speed, your aim down sight speed. You're going to lose a little bit of your accuracy, but with how much that helps with your mobility, that bringing up the gun, you're going to want to use this. That bringing up the gun on any weapon, if you're ever able to improve that a lot. I know some of these attachments were taking that away, but that's for a good reason, of course. If you're ever really able to improve that a lot, I would always recommend running that attachment. Next, for my underbarrel, I'm sure that you guys can see a pattern by now. I run the Commando foregrip to help with that accuracy, the range, and the control of the weapon, which is so much needed on this weapon. You're going to lose a little bit of that movement speed that we just got, but it's very minor. Last but not least, I run the stippled grip tape. Again, that's another pattern that I'm sure that you see a lot. This is going to be, again, that aim down sight speed, that sprint to fire speed. So important in this game. So important. The time to kill is so fast. Run this. Please, on all your weapons, run the stippled grip tape. Now, number 5 on my list, this is actually a gun that I've been using a lot more since the last update, and this is going to be the AUG. The AUG recently received a buff which has made it so much stronger, but let's go ahead and jump into this class setup. For my barrel, I run the 407mm extended barrel, which is going to help with that damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control. Again, you're going to lose a little bit of that aim down sight speed, but it's super minor. the pros definitely outweigh the cons for this attachment. Next, of course, the optic, completely up to you. For my stock, I run the Forge Tac CQB comb. That's going to help with the aim down sight speed. If you don't want to worry about that aim down sight speed, you think that it's fine, I would recommend the FFS Heavy Stock Pro Sight, which is going to increase your accuracy a lot and the control of your weapon. The last two we've gone over a ton, but again, that commando foregrip, recoil, aiming stability, a little bit of that moving speed, but definitely worth running. And last but not least, that stifle foregrip. Again, aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, so important in this game. So important. But anyways, that's going to be my top 5 weapons. There is many other guns, so if you don't see your favorite weapon in this list, such as the Kilo or the P90, just there's so many good weapons it was hard to choose from. But that is my top 5 list. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, I love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and I will see y'all in the next one.